We have come to Windsor Great Park, Virginia Water, so my parents could see Amelia for her birthday, which was obviously last week. And it's not the greatest weather, it's a bit grey, it keeps raining, but look at some of the colours. I mean, this is where you come. It's amazing.
Welcome to another episode of Toby Stupid Vlog.
So it's really nice to come out and see some autumn colours, regardless of how crap the weather is, and regardless of how crap we both feel, because both felt a bit rubbish at the start of this week. Amelia doesn't, she's fine, but she leads a charmed life. So yeah, got to make the most of autumn. The best thing about it is what it looks like, so you got to come and see it. Hi, we're back. The only other thing worth mentioning about today is that it is the last day of British summertime, which is criminal, to be honest. Greenwich Mean Time is idiotic and pointless in a non-agricultural environment. We should have scrapped it years ago. We haven't, because this country is filled with people who think that, you know, we need to hark back to the days of empire and all that sort of bullshit, which is why we're in such a fucking mess, to be honest. And that's the only reason we still have Greenwich Mean Time, to be honest. But it needs to fuck off, along with all the people in government. So there we go, that's all I have to say for the day. Yes, I'm in a very good mood. So hooray. I'm going to go buy food, that'll cheer me up. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. First day of GMT. Counting down now till the clocks go forward again. Because it's been hours. Crystal and Amelia have gone out today to meet up with Anna and Katie and Iris for a ladies' day at Paynes Hill, because broadly, well, everyone's had a birthday recently. Anna has, and Iris has, and Amelia has, and no one's got to actually say hello or do anything fun. So that's what they're doing. I've used the day to get the flat back in order, which must sound like really boring, but it's been transformative. I feel so much better about it. And now I'm going for a little walk before the rains come. So this week's quite a big week for Amelia. She doesn't realise it yet, but she will soon enough. Tomorrow she's got her 1 year injections, which is never fun because you can't kind of pre-warn her, and it's only when you turn up and somebody jabs you with a needle that you realise what's happening. So she's not going to be very pleased about that. But vaccinations are important, and if ever there was a time in history when it was obvious, this is now. So that's Monday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are her settling in days at nursery, which involves increasingly longer stays there as she gets used to it. And then week after, she starts at nursery properly every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, which is hard to imagine. And, you know, it's going to be a bit of a change for myself and Crystal, certainly, but more so Amelia. I should imagine it'll be quite difficult drop-offs to start with, and then it will slowly become normal. But it will give us 3 days a week where we can do work and not have to balance it with childcare, which is, I mean, amazing. I can't even imagine how much easier work is going to be. So it's going to be an adjustment, and everyone's going to have to get used to it, but I think ultimately this is going to be really good. So I hope I'm right. You never know with these things. Everyone has obviously their own opinions, and Amelia has hers. She may or may not take to this, so I'm very hopeful, but you know, you can't account for everything. A quick COVID news. I had a test because I felt absolutely diabolical last Monday, and although I didn't quite have a fever, it was close, and I didn't have a cough, and I didn't lose my sense of taste or smell. The COVID app suggested that I have a test, so I did. I don't have COVID. Hooray! Or rather, to be absolutely precise, I did not have COVID on Thursday at about 4 o'clock. Might have got it since, but at that point I didn't have COVID, so I'm feeling very good about life. That's the third time since July that I've been told I don't have COVID, so hooray for me. So here I am apologising in advance if I don't film too much this week, and the reason being is, one, all of the things I talked about with regards to Amelia, that going on, but also I've got a fair bit of work. I've got 3 days of video edits for WebVid. I've got a couple of days of audio mastering work for Livewire for the International Paralympic pod, which I've been working on. So that's a fair amount to be getting on with. And oh yeah, I think I have to finish I've got to finish another podcast that I started for every woman. So that has to be done as well. So there's plenty for me to be doing. One of the reasons why childcare is becoming so important is because ironically I've got so much work. Nothing like a pandemic and a global slowdown to really test your mettle like what you can do. But I've done all right since June, as I think I mentioned before, and a bit of it has been me being less precious about the kind of work I take and not being so sort of dogmatic about what it is that I do, and being open to ideas. And it's been very enjoyable. I've got no complaints, and you really appreciate incoming money when you have both a child and childcare expenses. Good evening, it is Tuesday. I've come for a very quick walk because I haven't been out to the flat. I've had lots of work today and yesterday, and that's probably at least partly responsible, but I feel dreadful, like horrible. And it's the weirdest thing. First of all, as I mentioned, had a COVID test. It's not COVID, but I have no headache, no stomach pains, no pain at all whatsoever, none. I'm not in any pain, and yet I feel dead, completely and utterly drained. Like every lung of air feels exhausting. Like I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'm 90. That's probably the only, except with no pain. It feels so odd. I can barely get up out of the chair. It's just complete and utter exhaustion. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, you know, babies or whatever. I just don't think it's that, because I had a baby for over a year now. Never felt like this. And it's only since I started feeling a bit unwell last week that this has really caught up with me. And it's maybe exhaustion, just like regular, doing too much, just coming to a head. But it's horrible. It's really horrible. Hello, good morning. I'm just on my way to pick up Amelia from nursery. She has had her first settling in day yesterday with us, where we sat outside and she played and whatnot. And then this morning is the first time she's been there on her own. Now, this is obviously very normal and rather unextraordinary in many ways, but the thing that makes this year rather more unusual is because of everything that's been going on in the world. This is the longest that Amelia has been without myself or Crystal since she was born, which is pretty crazy. It's only an hour and a half, but because of the nature of not being able to leave her with family or babysitters and whatnot, she has always been with one of us, pretty much, apart from maybe a 20-minute stretch here or there where she's been with my mum outdoors, or she has gone for a walk around the block with her auntie in the pushchair. So other than that, it's been like 54 weeks of us solidly. Poor kid. And she's finally had an hour and a half without us. I'm very curious to know how she coped. She's quite robust and she's quite good with change, but this is very different. I mean, you know, so let's go and find out. The other thing to mention is that she was due to start nursery sort of mid-July initially, but obviously everything closed during lockdown, and that meant that when they reopened, it took a while for them to decide how many spaces they were going to have, and therefore the waiting list became effectively longer because there were less spots. So she should have been at nursery for 3.5 months by now, and you know, in some ways it might have been easier for her if she'd started earlier. I would say it definitely would have been easier for us, because the amount of work we've had on between us is ridiculous, and to be able to look after a 1-year-old at the same time has been quite tricky. So I'm very grateful, for one, that this opportunity came up, and I just hope that Amelia has enjoyed her hour and a half as much as I have. Not to say I won't be very pleased to see her, but I mean, it's just good for your mental health now and again to just not be surrounded by an absolute tip and be shouted at by a small person. So I think the other thing that always comes to mind is absence makes the heart grow fonder, definitely, but you need some absence. Okay, so I said I was going to give you an Amelia update, and so she was there an hour and a half, and in very unsurprising news, she did absolutely fine. She played happily, messed around with some Play-Doh, and when I turned up, she was perfectly happy mood, kind of indifferent to see me, as you might imagine. The only complication is that at one point she got a bit agitated, which is not unusual because she's a 1-year-old, and they took her temperature, and her temperature had gone up from 35 when she arrived to 38. Now, I can tell you why I think that is, based upon knowing Amelia for the last year. When she gets angry, her blood literally boils. I mean, she goes red, she's irate, and her temperature goes up. It just happens. It happens all the time when she's angry. You can see it. We've done it. We've taken her temperature before when she's angry, and it's not good. So anyway, because she had a temperature, that means that she can't go back tomorrow. She has to have a COVID test, which is where she's gone now with Crystal. And gets better because obviously she's 1-year-old and they don't administer COVID tests for 1-year-old. You have to do it as the parent yourself. Now, you might say that's perfectly reasonable. It might be perfectly reasonable, but it doesn't make it possible. It's very, very difficult to give a COVID test, let alone on yourself. I've done 3 now, to an infant. So whatever. Anyway, that's what's happening now. She doesn't have COVID, but we'll know officially that she doesn't have COVID in, 48 hours or so. But anyway, that's what we're up to. She might be going back to nursery on Tuesday, let's hope.